we will keep rolling on with our W Power Talks. And before we introduce our next speaker, we're going to check out a short video.
The thought that keeps running through my head is, look at this thing we built.
I didn't know what my softball career looked like after the summer.
Last summer, we were sitting on our couches watching the men play.
I know I talked to a lot of you and just, hey guys, this is legit.
I asked you, why do you play?
And it makes me think about the women who came before us, who never had this.
We went through the highs, we went through the lows.
And thank you all for buying in. Just really humbled and honored to be amongst all of you.
Such a strong group of women who are role models, who have taken this sport to the next level. It's such an honor.
If you had asked me even a year ago to imagine what professional volleyball could look like in the United States, in my wildest dreams, I could not have described this.
A platform and a space to be free, to be supported, to be heard and valued. And with that said, representation is extremely important. Being a Black and Puerto Rican woman who is also part of the LGBTQ plus community, it is extremely important to be up here and be a role model for a younger generation. So
it's your responsibility to keep playing. Continue to play so that people below you have the opportunity to do this and have their life change the way we all did. Because I think we all are leaving here in the next couple days nowhere close to the same person we were when we came in.
Because the question has never been, are we good enough? Are we interesting enough? Are we valuable enough? The question has always been, will you invest in us? Will you make space for us? Will you allow us the opportunities to be the heroes of our own stories? To be the heroes in the eyes of the next generation coming up? Because we're ready. We have been ready. I hope that there comes a time that none of us are playing here. I hope there's a future version of this league that is filled with women who are living out the dream that we planted this last 5 weeks. And that we can come back and look in that book and see our names and see all of the names that came after us and say, look at this thing we built.
Ooh. All right. Without further ado, let's hear from the CEO and co-founder of Athletes Unlimited, Jon Patricof.
Do it so effortless. Don't try to mess with it. They try to reference it, wanna say they invented.
Thank you all so much. And a huge thank you to Laura, or Rachel, and the entire team. What an absolutely inspirational day. Can we all give it a round of applause, please, for the entire team here at ESPN? And I also want to ask for one more round of applause, which is for Cassidy Lichtman and Alicia Ocasio and the rest of the players that you saw speaking in that video. Those are their words, captured over the course of the last 2 years at closing ceremonies or opening ceremonies of Athletes Unlimited. They are absolutely incredible, and I'm so proud to be standing here today on behalf of them and the rest of the athletes and staff of Athletes Unlimited. So I'm hopeful that some of you know what Athletes Unlimited is, but there are probably many of you who are here today or who are watching who don't know us. For that matter, we're only 2 years old. And so let me just start by summarizing what we do. Athletes Unlimited is a network of professional sports leagues. Today, we run 4 leagues. We run the only professional women's lacrosse league in the United States, for that matter in the world, the only pro softball league in the United States, the only pro indoor volleyball league in the United States, and we run a basketball league that takes place in January and February, a complement to the WNBA here in the US. In those leagues, we have 200+ athletes that participate per year, 60 in lacrosse, 60 in softball, 44 in volleyball, and 44 in basketball. Today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how we got here, what we're doing, and where we're going. So let me start going back to 2018 to September. I was at New York City Football Club, an MLS team in New York, and I was thinking about the world of sports. I was pleased to be the president of the team and had seen this dramatic growth in soccer in the United States over the 3 years I'd been at the team. But when I actually looked out into the world of sports, I saw this incredible talent and potential in women's professional soccer. And soon after there, I looked at what was going on in the WNBA and in women's professional basketball. And I was shocked how MLS team valuations had quadrupled or quintupled over the 3 years I'd been at the league, but the women's soccer league had not seen that same type of growth. It struck me that there was an absolutely massive business opportunity in women's professional sports that truthfully was not being taken advantage of by many people. The leagues were struggling, it was a difficult time. Unlike what you just heard, the fact that there was only 4% of media coverage going to women's sports at that time actually incentivized me. That got me excited. I realized there was so much opportunity that existed that wasn't yet being capitalized on. Now, I put up a question here on these slides. If you could design a league from scratch, what would it look like? Has anyone ever asked themselves that question? Okay, you're like me. I'd never asked myself that question either. I was very fortunate that I had someone I had come to know, whose name is Jonathan Suros, and is now my co-founder in Athletes Unlimited, who was kind of crazy enough to ask that question. So on December 24th of 2018, we met and we discussed the opportunity that I thought existed in women's sports, and Jonathan asked me this question. If we could actually design something from scratch, what would it look like? So today I'm actually going to show you what that is and what we decided to create starting in early 2019. Starting on day one, Jonathan and myself and the rest of the team that came together at Athletes Unlimited started with the concept that we needed to create something where athletes were business partners from day one. We decided that there would be board representation, and today Cassidy Lichtman, who you saw earlier, sits on the board of Athletes Unlimited. We decided in each sport there should be a player executive committee made up of 5 players who would sit with us and the senior management team and work with us week in and week out to help us make decisions on all aspects of the league, not only on the rules of play and who our partners would be, but actually who would be recruited into the league itself. It wasn't going to be about the owners, and it wasn't going to be about the general managers. It was going to be about partnering with the players at every step of the way. And finally, and very importantly, the players would share both in the revenues and profits of the league. And not just the revenue and the profits of the league during the year in which they play, or the years in which they play, but for 20 years into the future. They were going to become true partners in the league at every step of the way. Now, that was the big fundamental concept, that we were going to do something that was athlete aligned. The second idea, and second question we had to ask ourselves is, where are fans heading? Where is fandom heading over the coming years? Let's not design a league or a series of leagues that are based on where things are today, but where the world is heading. And so we had the good fortune of meeting Angela Ruggiero and her partners, you've heard her name mentioned before, and the team at the Sports Innovation Lab. And prior to the Fan Project, the Sports Innovation Lab had actually come out with a report back in 2018 called The Age of the Fluid Fan. Jonathan and I read that report, and what it talked about was a number of kind of key elements of fans of the future. First, they were going to follow athletes more than they were going to follow teams and leagues. Now, I'm a sports fan for life. I've got my teams. Yankees are on an amazing run. We love teams and leagues. But there are younger and younger fans, and if you talk to them, who are following athletes first. So we said, if you're going to create a league, think about that. Second, the importance of values. We knew that was going to be an essential element of fandom in the future, and we knew about kind of multi-channel consumption and multi-platform consumption of media. So we actually came up with a format for a league in partnership with the athletes that was designed for this fluid fan. And so unlike any league you've ever seen or heard before, the way we decided to run this league was it would be running, each league would run over 5 weeks, and it would take place in one city. We'd invite the 60 players, and softball was the first league we started with. They'd all come to Chicago. There you go, shout out for Chicago. And the first week would be training and orientation, and we'd emphasize kind of getting the team together and getting to know each other. We'd have a couple of scrimmages, and then when week 1 started, there'd be 4 captains that would be identified, and they would actually go through a draft to select their teams for that week. It wouldn't be the general managers, it wouldn't be coaches, it would be the players themselves. Those captains would select their teams, and those 4 teams would play each other over the course of the first week. And each game, players would get points based on how well they did and their teams did. Most important was going to be the team performance. About 70% of your points would come from how your team performed, but you'd get points based on individual performance. That was the innovative scoring system. And then you would be shown up on a leaderboard that would look a lot like this. If you were online, you'd go to our website, and the leaderboard would be moving with every single play. I don't know how many people in this room play fantasy sports, but this type of fantasy experience where you could be tracking players, watching them move up and down, we thought would be dynamic, exciting, and really allow fans, as Dee Dee said, if you heard Dee Dee earlier, she said, pick one player that you love in the WNBA, follow them, follow their story, follow what they're about. And this is what we leaned into. So that's how it looks online, and when you watch our broadcast today, often you'll see the leaderboard pop up, and yes, there's a traditional game going on, and you can see the score in the bottom left, but you can also track how those players are performing, and that leaderboard will be moving up and down with every game. It's fast, it's exciting, it's what fans are looking for. But as important was prioritizing the athlete experience. So I mentioned the players arrive on day one, there's a week of orientation, or 2 weeks in some cases, but throughout the entire season, we really prioritize the athlete experience. We bring in professional development resources, career advice, keynote speakers. From the beginning, we focused on having a pregnancy and childcare policy that we thought was suitable and absolutely the bare minimum that should be required of any league that is out there. We provided mental health and wellness services, and also focused on fun and the athletes having a good experience and bonding as a league together when they were on the field and when they were off the field. And at the core of this idea was supporting athletes as civic leaders. We really put the power of action and power of community in the hands of the players. Each player selects a cause to play with during the course of the season, and we help them raise money for that cause. The league contributes and matches the bonus at the end of the year by 50%, and that money goes to a cause that they've actually selected to play with. So how's it going? Well, the first metric for this, and remember, we only announced on March 3rd of 2020, so you can imagine our entire existence has been lived during COVID. The athlete feedback has been absolutely incredible. We're on the cusp of running our third softball season this summer. We've run 2 successful softball seasons. We're so excited about the new partnership with ESPN and their broadcasting. We're actually expanding our softball presence this year based on how well it's gone with the athletes. So this summer, not only will we have our traditional season, our championship season in Chicago, but we're going to add a new 2-week season in San Diego. Athletes are loving it. They're loving the experience on and off the field, and we're so proud of that piece. That's our #1 KPI. The second, the fans. I love this quote. It's from one of our fans that I saw last week online that said, I was a sports fan. I'd lost that feeling, and I found it again with AU and this type of teamwork and sportsmanship. Thank you for what you're doing. The fans love the action. They love the high quality of play. Remember, these are the best pro athletes in the world on the court and on the field. But they also love the fact that this is an athlete-led organization, that they're sharing in profits, that they are allowed to support the causes they want to support. This all matters to fans of the future. So fans, finally, after a year of COVID and operating in a bubble and not being able to have fans, we were able to bring them back last summer. This is what it looks like. We play in venues around the country. Each league takes place in a different city. But most importantly, and where we started, truthfully, was not the in-person experience. It was about building year-round global media reach and scale. Again, we are so proud of the partnership with ESPN, and it only enhances the fact that today, Athletes Unlimited across our 4 leagues runs 132 games in 2022. I think for those of you who didn't know about Athletes Unlimited, I hope you're a little bit in shock that there's maybe a sports organization out there in women's sports you didn't know about or hadn't heard of or hadn't focused on that's running 132 games across 5 leagues over 25 weeks. We'll have massive linear reach in 2022, 95 games on linear television, 37 on streaming. A huge important balance, I'll note. We want to have one step in the future and 1 foot in the future, but also 1 foot solidly in where the core audience is today. And finally, we're reaching 167 countries. If you watch our broadcasts, they're world-class broadcasts, 10+ cameras. But you'll not just see the action on the field and the incredible play of the players, but you'll get to hear about the players and see features. You'll see in-cage cameras. You'll see players mic'd up. You'll hear them talk about the causes that they care about. It has to be about the action, the excitement, but also the storytelling. And that storytelling needs to continue 365 days a year with original programming that lives digitally and on television. Starting in June, we'll premiere Going Pro, which is our profile of 4 rookies in each season. We'll start with Going Pro Lacrosse, and it'll be available on ESPN+. But this is what fans need today. It's been the case that in women's sports, and by the way, in any emerging sports league, there's a huge challenge anybody faces. It's hard enough to find the athletes. It's hard enough to find the venues. It's hard enough to even get on television or get your games produced. But what therefore you're doing is you're always just kind of catching up with yourself. And what we did at Athletes Unlimited is we realized from the start we needed to build out all elements and dimensions of this fan experience. To be a league that's not competing just against whatever your nearest competitor is, but we want to be competing against the biggest leagues in the world, men's, women's, and cross geographies. And to do that, you need to have an app. You need to launch trading cards like we did with Topps, where we built the first softball trading card set in the 82-year history of the Topps company back in 2020. Think about that. This is a company that's been synonymous with baseball cards and the sport of bat and ball, and in 82 years, there'd never been a softball card set until we launched it. And think about how happy our fans were when we saw their reactions, when they realized for the first time the sport that they love is being represented and recognized. We launched NFTs with our lacrosse season, and we're up and running with sports betting in all 4 of our leagues as of now. Again, a huge milestone, so much work behind the scenes, so many obstacles. But again, to be a fan, you need to be able to make it fun. You need to be able to make it engaging, and you need people to be able to interact. So as I said, I am excited to be here today and to be alongside the other executives in other women's sports leagues who I know all have the same objective. We're here not just to lead within women's sports, but to lead across women's and men's sports. And there's absolutely no reason we can't all do that together. We've set up ourselves as the first carbon-neutral professional sports league in the United States. We've set up ourselves as the first league to be a public benefit corporation. If you've heard about companies like Patagonia or Allbirds, you may have heard about their commitment not just to their shareholders, but to all their stakeholders. Athletes Unlimited has similarly done that as the first sports league in the world to be a public benefit corporation. But there's so many other firsts to come. So what's next? Improving and expanding our current leagues is the #1 priority. You can't take your eye off the ball. That has to be the #1 thing to do. Second, there's been so much talk about NIL over the last year or two. I want to challenge and make the point to all of us. We need to focus on bringing NIL opportunities to professional women's athletes, not just to college women's athletes. And that's a focus of Athletes Unlimited. If someone else isn't going to do it, we're going to help do that ourselves. And finally, we're going to continue to add new leagues to our network of sports. We're not done yet. We're continuing to grow, continuing to expand. We see so much opportunity ahead. So I just want to say thank you. I want to start, I guess, or come back to where I started, which is if you've never thought about what a league could look like in the future, or what is possible if you start with a blank sheet of paper, and you don't have that idea, find a partner, find other people who've asked that question, and partner up with them, and think about all the possibilities that are to come. We have so much work to do. I'm so proud to be doing it all together with you and everybody at Athletes Unlimited. Thank you so much.